Experts is here to answer your questions and help preserve your family's financial future. Now,
you're live. Okay. Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. Oh, wow. Frog in my throat. Quick, Noah, announce the show. I have a frog in my throat.
Well, right now, it's actually pretty exciting right here on the Word on Wealth. One of my personal friends and somebody that is actually taking the world by storm, and Gary, I sincerely mean that, is Chad C.R. Stewart, because he's got so many tremendous things going on. He actually runs the Britfield Institute. We're going to be talking about that today. Tremendous nonprofit. He is writing the Britfield Saga, the first book of that, Britfield and the Lost Crown. And I know you have so many other questions for him. So while you catch your breath there, Gary, let's welcome Chad to the show. I just spoke with you yesterday, Chad, from my own show. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah, very excited to be here.
That's cool. Okay. Sorry about that. I'm usually good at the introduction, but Noah steps in for me if I'm choking there. It's like one of these things. Chad, thank you so much for being on the show today. Really, when Noah said, yeah, I got him cornered for an hour on Friday, I went, there's no way. And the reason I feel that way is because when Noah first told me about Britfield and the Lost Crown, it was months ago. And Noah said, hey, Gary, do you like Harry Potter, right? I said, oh, I love Harry Potter. Did you like Lord of the Rings? I loved Lord of the Rings. What are the books to read? I go, I'm a big fan of Brendan Sanderson and those type of things. And he goes, oh, okay, you've got to read this book. And so he goes and gets me the book that you gave him with the 2 bookmarks in it. And I go, Britfield and the Lost Crown, what the heck? So, it's been fun. So I finally, I always have I have this list of books that I read when I mountain bike, usually like 3 days a week. So about 3 hours a week, I'm reading for fun with Audible. And I thought, okay, I'm doing Britfield. So I read it, listening to it. The reader of Britfield and Lost Crown, he is fantastic. He does the voices. He's really consistent. It's thrilling. I mean, I'm jumping off of mountains and listening to this thing going like, yeah, go Sarah. It's so cool. So I just really enjoyed it. So then, and I hadn't talked to you since I started reading. I thought this is going to be so fun to talk to Chad. So I'm not that I'm easy to please, but I'm not like one that will sit down and go, oh, if this were, I don't do that. For me, it's pure entertainment. And I'll tell you, listeners, everybody that's listening to this, the thing about Chad's writing that is absolutely thrilling, and I think is fantastic, is there are no magic wands. There's no magic. There's none of that kind of thing where, there's a superpower that comes squirting out of his fingers from the sky because he says kablam or whatever. There's nothing like that. Literally, his whole thing is based on, it's a fantasy, in my opinion, because these kids are just, it's terrific, but it's real. And you'd not warned me, but you told me about this. Says, well, Gary, everything in there is historically based. And I'm listening to this thing going, wait a minute, Windsor Castle and Weatherly and they're, and Big Ben and it's really cool. And you told me that everything was going to be historical, but I've never read a book like that where it's like, they're being chased and all of a sudden, then there's the, 354-foot such and other clock tower with 1,800 stairs, and they run through the front oak doors that swung open, and it's just beautiful inside, and saw the stained glass windows. So you're describing all these things, and I'm kind of getting into this like, yeah, they're being chased. I go, wait a minute, I can actually visualize. So now you've got me going crazy. So my wife wants to go to England anyway. So now I'm going to go to England and retrace Tom and Sarah's steps. Of course, I probably won't do it in a balloon, but I'm super excited. Anyway.
Oh, I love that. That was a great commentary. And I think that's what's fun about it. And I myself, I lived in England off and on for 2 years. Outside of London. I lived in Richmond, and then I was actually down in Hampshire, and I lived 4 miles from Jane Austen's house, which was pretty cool. But what's great, I haven't been back since I've written it. And so, my goodness, I want to go back. But that's what's great about it. It's like the street, everything in it is accurate. The different towns, Oxford, the streets in Oxford, the different colleges they visit. Windsor Castle, all the descriptions, the different rooms, the area, all of London, everything from Hyde Park, Serpentine Lake, which I love Hyde Park, to Mayfair, to Bond Street, to having tea at the Browns Hotel. You can have tea at the Browns Hotel, to St. James, in the Duke's Hotel. You can stay at the Duke's Hotel. I've stayed at the Duke's Hotel. So it's like, it's so cool. You're like, oh my gosh, like this is where they were and stuff. And I think that's really fun. I don't have to create Potterville or Harry Potter world.
Right.
It's like, just go to London. Yeah.
So, and I was wondering, with that, and we're talking to Chad Stewart. He's the creator of this entire world called Britfield. We're going to be talking about that right at the top of the hour. If you have questions for Chad, feel free to give us a call. It's 888-344-1170. You can be on the show with us and ask him questions. The whole thing, Chad's life is bringing creativity back into the world. And one of the things we are going to be talking about, I'm going to pin him down on this, is the statistics for creativity that he has regarding what happens to kids. We start out at age 3 at this level. And then by the time, we're going to talk about those kind of things because that's really important to me to know. I do want to ask a question because this is because I have you and I kind of get insider information. I feel kind of cool that I can ask you this. So as the detail that you have, I mean, if you only live there for 2 years, the detail that you have. So are you like, as a writer, do you go and say, hey, I'm writing a book that's going to involve this. Can I go into the back room? Can I look at do you get that kind of privileges, or how does that work?
No, I don't. I base my book. So it's a 7-book series, Britfield Lost Crown series. Book 1 is in England. Book 2 is in France. Book 3 is in Italy. I'm writing book 4 now in Eastern Europe. So I base it on places that I visited, and then I just do deep research really online. So it's like, it's not like, and truthfully, like with book 4, because I've got about 18 months to get it launched by September, actually 16 months. And I'm headed over, I might be headed over to Eastern Europe in September and October. So that might be kind of cool.
About a minute.
Now that I've sort of, if you will, established myself and things. But I do a lot of, every day I'm writing, I'm researching also. And I'm Google searching. I'm always looking at maps. I use maps all the time. As far as distances and locations, I do deep dives, like book 4 starts in Vienna, Austria, 6 months later from book 3. And so, I mean, what a cool city, right? So I'm like, okay, so where are they going to go, right? Where are they going to get chased? And so I was there. And so I remembered, and you don't have to, but it helps, right? I mean, at least it helps me because I remember City Hall. It's like this stunning, gorgeous cathedral-like building. I remember the parks. I just remember the beauty. I remember just the feel of Vienna. I remember the little side streets with the shops.
15 seconds.
And the
I love that.
And the cheeses and the bread. So you know what I mean? Like, and that's why I include that stuff. It's like, and even in book 1, like the Duke's Hotel.
Yeah.
Why did I pick the Duke's Hotel? Because
all right, I'm going to stop you for a sec. We're going to take a quick break, come back, and we're going to keep going on this right here. Chad Stewart on the Word on Wealth.
You've got questions.
You did it. You got 50 bonus points.
This is the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush. Gary's here to give you peace of mind with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary to build, protect, and transfer your wealth. 855-500-TRUST. GQLaw.com.
You're saving and investing for the future, and that's good. Have you ever stopped to think, where does my money actually go? This is Faith-Based Investing with Anthony Wright.
Most Christian families don't understand this one thing. The money that you're saving for retirement helps fund the abortion industry as well as other liberal anti-family causes. It's the sad, dirty little secret of American investing world. And here's the good news, though. You probably also didn't know that just a few minutes of your time, and we'll screen and clean your investments for you. There's no cost, no obligation. Learn the truth about your own investment mix. Then the choice is yours. Remember, the word says when God's money is in the hands of the righteous, the people rejoice. Well, we also are fiduciary investment advisor representatives. That means that our firm makes a pledge to always act in your best interest. Go to BibleSafeInvesting.com. Download a free copy of my book, Faith-Based Investing, or call me at 931-RETIRED. And please don't forget, listen to Faith-Based Investing this weekend right here on Family Talk.
Gary, our listeners are asking about trust disputes and whether or not they'll actually get the inheritance they're expecting.
I think that's a scary thing for most people because they feel like, if I ask my successor trustee, hey, where's my inheritance? You kind of feel like, oh my God, I'm being like rude or whatever, inconsiderate. But I'm telling you, if time goes on, if it's been like 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, that's too long to have heard nothing. You're supposed to hear fairly soon, like within a couple of months after someone's passed, you should be hearing from that successor trustee. And if you're not, I think there's an issue we need to address. So it's not like we're going to go screaming in there and filing lawsuits. We kind of use gentle nudges like, hey, do you know what you're doing? Successor trustee, we kind of want to help you do your job, and we help beneficiaries kind of get things straightened out.
Call or click to request your free initial consultation. GQlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST, GQlaw.com.
Biggest financial decision of your lifetime. If you're planning to buy or sell a home in San Diego County, do what I do and work with the true San Diego real estate experts. Ken Pecos and the Pecos Group helped me and my family. They can help you. This is Gary Quackenbush of The Word on Wealth. You hear Ken every week here on The Word on Wealth. He's our expert. He's got integrity, exceptional service, deep knowledge of the San Diego, Coronado, and South Bay regions. These are just some of the reasons that Ken Pecos has completed hundreds of transactions. He manages a powerful team of professionals at the Pecos Group, from single-family attached homes to luxury high-value waterfront properties to apartment buildings. Ken Pecos is ready to help you avoid problems and costly mistakes. Learn more online at kenpecos.com. That's Ken Pecos, Pecus.com, or call 619-977-8419.
DRE number 010566969, brokered by eXp Realty.
Spring is here and there's still
Tell a friend about this broadcast outreach, The Word on Wealth, with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Call or click to request your free initial consultation or to talk with a member of the team. Call Gary at 855-500-TRUST. GQlaw.com.
You're live.
All right. Welcome back to The Word on Wealth. Happy Friday, everybody. Today is Finding Joy Friday. And the way we're finding our joy today is by having author and writer. And gosh, now he's got all kinds of stuff going on. The author of Britfield. This is C.R. Stewart, Chad Stewart, as we know him. And we have him cornered today on the show right to the top of the hour. The number is 888-344-1170. We would love to have you chime in and ask your questions. Chad, you're getting me super excited. That's why the break came up suddenly because I was going, where am I going on my next trip with Chad? So I know I'm going to France, I'm going to Vienna, but it's just super fun. I really enjoy that. So, and I'll have to ask you, and this is kind of, when it comes out on, I just like the Audible platform. It's one of these things. It's easy. There's a bunch of book platforms, and some of them aren't as good when you're like riding and I have to reach up in my helmet and keep touching a button. Some platforms work a little better, but I love the Audible platform. Are 2, 3, and 4, eventually is everything going to come out on Audible, like one at a time? And then I want you to talk about that. And then my understanding is that you also have some, the movies that are being put together for this. How's that world coming together?
Sure. Real quick. Yeah. So we will do eventually 2, 3, and 4 in the whole series on Audible. The Audible version was done by award-winning voice talent Ian Russell. He's British and he's amazing. As you saw, like he did all the voices. So he'll do 2 and 3 eventually. So we're excited about that. It's funny too, because I was thinking about it the other day. And can you imagine having to listen to that and edit it. And I had this woman working for me, Kelly Hendrickson, and so she had to go as he's recording chapter by chapter, he's submitting them to her, and she had to go through the entire book and see if he missed any words. So I was just thinking about that the other day. I was like, oh my god, how mind numbing, right? But anyway, so yeah, so we're in development right now for the first of 7 Britfield motion pictures. So we're really excited about that. It's always really been about the movie. A huge movie fan. I grew up on movies, as we all have. Noah and I just did our top 5 movies yesterday.
Gosh, you think about it and you're like, oh yeah, these are it's rough. It's hard.
Yeah, but I love Star Wars 1977. I was just so inspired by that. So I'm very excited about it. We had the first draft of the script. We're waiting for the second draft now, and we were very, very thrilled with the first draft. And by the third draft, we should have probably a fairly polished version with a few tweaks. We're actually very close to funding of the whole thing, and if all goes well, we could be in pre-production by the end of the year, and production in spring of next year. And I'm hoping to be filming in England, quite a bit of it. And again, too, there's other locations that we'll be doing pre and post production, but I would love to film at least some of it in England. I think we need to. I will definitely work with all British actors just to keep the authenticity of it stuff. And we're excited. I really honestly believe that this will be one of the highest grossing films in cinematic history. I think the world wants it, needs it. There's an 80% gap for family-friendly type of films. And I think, Noah, Top Gun Maverick proved that last year.
Yeah, you make quality entertainment. You and I talk about this on my show, Chad, but you make quality entertainment, whether it's Christian or whether it just has great family values, and you actually put a budget behind it and you actually put a major production company behind it, and people come to see your movie. That is what, at one point, almost $5 billion for Top Gun Maverick. And that shows you that, I went to go see it 12 times, almost more than any other movie I've ever seen.
That's why
that is what families are clamoring for.
That's right. To go 10 times. That's fantastic.
12 times.
12 times.
Who's counting?
Well, see, that's what everybody should do. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. But that's, and it's fun, like talking with Chad about this too, because that's why I say Audible, because and I know this isn't, anyway, I have actually, people say, so you're a Harry Potter fan? Yeah. I go, yeah. Have you read all the books? I said, 5 times each. And they go, what? Are you kidding me? But see, I have a son and daughter-in-law who are they're not even readers or the voracious leaders. They just, I don't know how they read so fast, but they every time a series comes out, he's always done it as a little kid. It's like, oh, a series comes out, he reads the whole thing, and a new book comes out and he reads it again. But now if a new book comes out in a series, like I'm going to turn him on to Britfield. My grandson, Dylan, is going to get Britfield tonight when I see him for his brother's soccer game. So he's agreed to read Britfield. He is actually homeschooled. He and his sister Emmy, who is 8, and their little brother who's 5, they're all homeschooled. The 5-year-old is tougher to homeschool, so he's been going to a preschool. So I've been talking to my daughter about that. She's really big in the homeschool community, and this is the transition I kind of want to make. You had mentioned, Chad, when we were talking last time, you've gone all over the United States and literally talked to tens of thousands of people about creativity. And you had mentioned that you have these, like, you have a curriculum, like a Britfield curriculum that you provide to schools. And I'd mentioned that to my daughter. I said, this kind of stuff that he's talking about, we're going to explore it more, especially on my radio show, and talk to Chad about how that works, because to me, it's fascinating. My daughter tries everything she can with creativity, and she's a very creative person and always likes, packaged like the curriculum, like this particular curriculum, people rave about it. So she'll use this particular, she uses kind of whatever she wants. So I thought it'd be really fun on today's show, talk a little bit about how we can implement this stuff, like for homeschooling people, like how is that available? And then of course, this radio show, we're going to repurpose the heck out of it and make it so that, the whole homeschool community, especially up here where I live, it's really big, to kind of present that and say, here's an interesting idea for you guys. Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit, but first of all, and I keep talking way too much, and if I unleash you, you'll go for 3 hours. So anyway, which is cool.
And I can attest to this.
But I want to know, give me the statistics, because I promised them. Tell me about that, when you were talking about how we kind of, tell about the statistics of creativity, and then we'll talk about your curriculum.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because Wednesday night I did an hour and a half interview about the creativity crisis on Caravan to Midnight. I'm not trying to pitch the show, but it was really cool, and they've been on the air for decades. And we talked about this. It was very cool. And so I started off. Number one, I always love to kick it off with one of my favorite quotes of all times by Picasso, and it says that all children are born artists, but to remain an artist as you grow up is the challenge. And so we've been in a creativity crisis for a while, at least since the 1990s. And there's a gentleman by the name of George Land, and he's a researcher and a writer, and he was hired by NASA, of all things, to create a creativity test for the astronauts because it was very critical. You know, of course, they had the mathematics, the engineering, the analytical, but they really needed the creativity, the brainstorming, approaching problems a different way, quick on your feet. And so he took that same test after he ran it through the NASA program and implemented it into the schools. And this is what he found. And this is like hundreds of thousands of kids, and he documented it over 15, 20 years. And he found that the creativity scores among 5-year-olds was 98%, just knocking it out of the park. Basically, little geniuses playing with the crowns, the blocks, just their brains, just amazing, creative. He tested the same children again at age 10. Settled 30%, and then he tested them again at age 15, and it dropped all the way down to 12%. So in 10 years, it went from 98% to 12%. Same kids. And basically what he found is that schools and the educational system are educating kids out of creativity. So we've been in this creativity crisis for 25, 30 years. Number one, but on the other side of it, creativity is the single most important skill set and skill to have in the world right now. It's all based on all types of research. You can just pull it up anywhere. World Economic Forum says it's one of the 3 top skills. I think IBM did a study and said creativity is the number 1 leadership quality of the future. I mean, we just have stats and stats.
Well, and that goes back to the AI discussion, which is somewhat in your series too, Chad. You and I have talked about it, but AI is, and you've had business leaders talk about it. It's going to replace so many jobs, and the only way you're going to be able to save your job in any given field is to be able to stand above AI with creativity and ways to think that it can't.
Sure, and AI is creativity is the one thing that AI cannot replace. And a lot of people say, "Oh, okay, creativity." We're thinking about the arts and the painter. And I'm not an artist. Or I'm not a painter. I'll tell you one thing: we were all born creative. It's God's gift. It's a spark that we all have. We have creativity in us, but unfortunately, we get caught up with life, or we get a job that we don't like, or whatever it is. And the one thing that George Land had found out from those scores is that people, adults, can come back to 90 or 100% of creativity. So it's not like you lose your creativity and it's gone forever. Just start approaching that, but we'll talk about that. But I'll say this one more thing, and then we'll shift. But Dr. Kim, she's the one that wrote this book called The Creativity Crisis. She interviewed and researched over 300,000 students, and this is what she found. Since the 1990s, schools have killed curiosities and passions, narrowed visions, lowered expectations, stifled risk-taking, destroyed collaboration, narrowed minds, killed deep thoughts and imagination, forced conformity, and solidified hierarchy.
You know, Gary, I wouldn't even say that's opinion. That's fact.
No, that is fact. That's the research. That's not what she's thinking. That's what she documented. As a result, children have become less emotionally expressive, less energetic, less humorous, less imaginative, less talkative and verbally expressive, less unconventional, less lively and passionate, less perceptive, and less to see things from a different angle. Does that sound pretty much like our generation right now?
100%.
Unfortunately,
and this is all by design, and this is all the institution of public schools. And so, I love teachers. I admire them in the sense that that's a calling. A lot of them have drank the Kool-Aid and gone off the reservations. A lot of them don't have a choice because they're stuck in the system, and the system is dying.
2 minutes.
Talk about homeschooling. We've gone from 5 million to 15 million homeschoolers in the last 24 months, which is extraordinary. We're in an educational reformation right now and a homeschool revolution. I'm excited. And part of my launch of the book, Britfield Lost Crown, in 2019 is I drove 9,000 miles, visited 200 schools, and presented in front of more than 40,000 students. And everything from private, public, Catholic, even a Muslim school in Dallas, to charter schools, to homeschools. And the most well-rounded, educated students that I've ever met are homeschoolers.
You know what's interesting, Chad? People talk about it. You've given me some of the feedback, and my wife is testament. She's read it to her class too. Kids that don't really get a lot of reading opportunity, they're not taught the right things in schools. You give them the opportunity to read a book like Britfield and the Lost Crown, and they eat it up, and they're clamoring for more. My wife, she would read it to her kids during the free time that they had, or as a reward. And when they had to go back to work, they would be actually asking and begging to have more of the book read to them.
I love that.
I love it.
Fabulous.
Yeah, and that stuff starts at home too. And that's the unfortunate thing is some kids don't have that opportunity. They don't have, the parents that will read to them, or the parents are working too much or whatever. And so some kids don't have those opportunities. That's why I'm liking, the fact that
30 seconds. Sorry.
There's there's this curriculum. So you're listening to The Word on Wealth. We are on with Gary Quackenbush. That's me. And we got Chad Stewart, who's the author, the creator of Britfield, the entire world of Britfield, which is actually our world. And he has some great books. His first is Britfield and the Lost Crown, which I just absolutely enjoyed. I love reading and listening to that book. And we're going to keep talking about that. We're going to talk more about creativity and a program that Chad has to help schools, public and private, create and promote creativity. We'll be right back on The Word on Wealth.
Yeah, sorry. I was all set to cue you, and then I started talking and realized I missed my cue.
Answers you can trust when you need them. Well,
that's why I figure if I give you the smaller.
With that.
Oh, yeah, it's amazing. My wife's.
You need. Call Gary and the team at GQ Law 855-500-TRUST, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free consultation or to talk with a member of the GQ team. That's gqlaw.com. 855.
You're live.
Trust.
All right. We're back here on The Word on Wealth. Happy Friday, everybody. It's Finding Joy Friday on The Word on Wealth. As you know, every Monday we talk about taxes. On Tuesdays, we talk about estate planning. Wednesday, we have our expert, Ken Pecos, who tells us all about real estate. He is absolutely a thrill to have on the air because he doesn't just sell homes. He's got the concepts and the financial backing and the experience, and he's done it for ages. And then we've got on Thursday, we have our friend Anthony Wright from Tennessee, who is the ultimate in financial advice. So we love having him on. And then we have our Finding Joy Friday, where we have wonderful people like Chad Stewart, who we have today. We're just privileged and honored to have him with us. We're talking about creativity. We have now established, without a doubt, by statistics, by research, by studies, that creativity is super important. It's critical. It's like the number one skill. Yet in our poor public schools, poor meaning like pathetic, not just financially, but they're just really struggling, and they are doing a great job at closing out creativity, so that by the time our kids are teenagers and early teenagers, they're not creative anymore. And that just causes all kinds of problems. They are willing to take less risks. They're forced to be conform. Creativity's gone away. They're not as funny. They're less talkative. So we know all that. And now we're going to solve it. Okay. This is why we have Chad here today. Let's talk about the Britfield Institute. Let's talk about what we can do for adults, for kids, for like homeschool. What can we do? What can Britfield offer to like all of us to help us be creative? I love being creative. Okay.
Yeah, and it's kind of fun. I mean, we currently launched book 3 in September of last year, Britfield and the Return of the Prince. And so book 1 takes place in England, book 2 takes place in France, book 3 takes place in Italy. Very exciting. For book 1, we have the 83-page study guide, and it's actually available for teachers, homeschoolers for free on the BritfieldInstitute.org. $30 value. We sell it on the website for $30. This is your insider hint. And
right.
If you go to BritfieldInstitute.org, go to the resources. We actually have the study guide. We also have all kinds of fun exercises, creativity exercises. We have creativity quotes, which are kind of fun. So if you want to print something out with a beautiful picture in the background, have a really cool creativity quote, post it up on your wall and stuff. Something that we did for Britfield too, and again, because like I'm expanding this too. It's not like I have all the answers or I'm done. I've just begun, really. But we and I think we mentioned this before, but in 18 months ago, we had the idea of taking Britfield and the Lost Crown and turning it into a theatrical play specifically for middle schoolers, late elementary, middle schoolers, and even high schoolers. And so over 18 months of work to take a 400-page book into a 88-page actor's script. And that was hard.
Wow.
So I know what my scriptwriter's going through, right? It's really hard. But he has more room. He can do about 140 pages for the movie. But because especially with middle school and the theatrical play, it's really only about 80 minutes plus a 15-minute break. And age 2, you can't have too many lines. But it was a lot of fun. We piloted it in Mission Viejo last October, very successful for 4 nights. We've since refined it. It has over 53 slides, digital slides that one can project on a back screen, which are all the really cool places. So it's like when they're flying over England,
Wow.
You see that. When they're at Windsor Castle, you can see the interior, the beautiful stairs, London, Hyde Park. And it has 28 sound effects. It has music, and it has a director's script, actor's script, director's notes. So it's a turnkey operation for schools. And so I say all this to say that this is just another way that we're trying to bring creativity back in the classroom. Now we're, if you will, attacking the theater programs and saying, hey, let's bring in a really great play that's educational, right? The kids can actually learn things. They can learn a little bit about England. It takes place in present time, and it's got over 30 roles for quote unquote actors for kids. It's not a musical, right? And I don't know if I mentioned this before, but 80-90% of all these projects that are in schools are musicals. And what you've done is you've alienated 80 or 90% of kids that really honestly want to go out and maybe do theater. And just because a child wants to go out and does theater doesn't mean that they want to become a professional actor, but it's what happens in theater. I come from theater myself. I was involved with a professional improvisation group up in LA for years, and I loved it. And it helped me get over my nervousness. I was terrified. I hated standing up in front of the classroom. I was terrified. And I'm like, well, if I want to get into this public speaking, I've really got to overcome that. I would take a D, before I'd have to stand up in front of the class. And so the improv really just helped, and the theater classes just helped break it down. And so it does so many things. It's like you're working as a team, you're working as a group, you have the responsibility of memorizing lines, showing up at the right cues, and then standing in front of an audience. And it's amazing. It's electric for kids. And so that's just something else that we're doing now. And we launched it in February nationally, and have people interested from all over the world in the Britfield place. We're excited about that. But I'll stop there and let you ask other questions.
Oh no, that's what we're talking about. That's wonderful. There's in fact we just went to a play that they put on, and because even with homeschools, and I didn't realize this either. And this I think this is kind of it's appropriate for the show. Is with homeschool, you think, oh, if the kids are homeschooled, then they just have their mommy teaching them, and they don't get out in society, and they're super white skin, and they never see the sun. And it's like, that's when I was, that was 40 years ago. Homeschooling is not that way at all. I mean, I know that's just kind of the perception, but homeschool is not that way at all now. I mean, they're connected to either public schools or private schools or institutions or whatever. Yeah. And so we went to watch a play, and it was up in Escondido, and the Escondido, I can't remember, it's the center up in the Escondido City Center. And it was all the homeschools in the area get together, and they have this professional, theater production person. They put on this fantastic production, all these homeschooled kids from all over the place. So it would be like the equivalent of having like kids from, 8 different high schools kind of all mixed together. And it was so good. And all of them were these homeschooled kids. And we're finding out that they're homeschooled, but they do their athletics at a high school. They're on the football team, they're on the lacrosse team, and then they're homeschooled. And then they go for English, they'll go to the junior colleges do high school English for homeschooled kids. I mean, the education stuff that's available, I think, is really super cool. And I know, like my daughter, sometimes there's homeschools you try to attach to like an academy, and they don't have room. So that's when I told her about this Britfield. I said, you got to do this. I'm going to have Chad on the show, and we'll explain how all this stuff works. So this is really cool, and I appreciate it. So now I know I always do things. It's like, I'm trying to look for things. Chad, I have 12 grandchildren, so I have a lot of reason to find ideas. Because my daughter,
that's awesome.
Thank you. Because my daughter Bree has 3 children. She's homeschooling, and then my daughter-in-law Shelby, she's homeschooling 2 of her 3 kids. One's a little bit too little, but the homeschool thing is a big deal in my family because we're doing it a lot. And anyway, so it's super cool. I just love this stuff. Anyway, I eat this stuff up. All right, help us be creative. So if we have your curriculum and all that works, but so let's say, talk to me and say, Gary, your grandpa, here's some suggestions that you could implement in your family when you're with your grandkids. And here's some ideas on how to restore creativity in yourself. Can you do that?
Oh, no, absolutely. And for something, I got this idea of a board game. We're actually working on the Britfield board game right now. And I don't know if I mentioned this to you, Noah, but my lawyer got back to me last week because he flies all over the world.
Yeah, you told me you were headed into the meeting. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, and so there's one of the largest, if not the largest, game manufacturer in it's in Toronto. He gave them a Britfield book about 6 months ago and said that they're developing a board game. And just last week they got back to them and said, we're interested. What's the pitch? And I only say that to say
2 minutes.
Like, how cool would it be if you guys, with your kids, you guys developed a board game? I'm just throwing that out because it sprung into my mind. But doing those types of exercises, or write a story. My favorite, I've said before, is like writing a movie. And you can go online and pull up like the 3-act structure. Just kind of helps give it form.
Well, Chad, tell me your process too, because you're using the kids that are kind of like the target audience for all this to help you create this board game.
Yeah, that's right. We did talk about it. So I'm sorry if I was repeating myself, but no, yeah. And this is the stuff we do all the time. Like with my manuscript, every time I get to my 3rd draft of my manuscript, I reach out to some of the schools that we've presented to before, that we have relationships with, and say, hey, are any students interested in reading a 400, 500, or 600 page manuscript? And we just get tons of students that say yes, and they've got 3 weeks to read it. They fill out an hour, 2.5 page survey, and then I come into the library all day and I interview them, 4 or 5 at a time, during classes, like an hour, and ask them what they think of it.
About 1 minute.
of course, it's like, oh, we loved it, great. But I'm like, what didn't you like about it? I include them in the process. Can you imagine that? A 12-year-old that was included, and I shut up. I'm not arguing. I'm there to listen. I'm there as the pupil, and so that's kind of one of the exercises I do. But I was saying, there's so many different exercises that you can do as a grandparent, as a parent, with your kids that are creative. Number one is just kind of find out what they might be interested in. I've always said this because I'm always concerned about money. It's like, oh, we don't have money to buy this or buy that. And it's just like, that's an excuse. There's 90% of things you can do. Take them to the library and have every Wednesday or Sunday or Saturday library day, and you guys go out to the library for an hour and you get some ice cream afterwards or something, or, you get a hamburger or something fun. Library day. I cannot emphasize this enough. Take them
15 seconds.
Take them on walks, take them to the park, take them to the beach. I mean, we're in Southern California, take them to different beaches.
All right, Chad, I'm going to take another quick break and we're going to keep talking. When we come back, more creativity ideas for parents and grandparents when we come back right here on the Word on Wealth with Chad Stewart.
You've got questions.
Yeah.
Answers. This is the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary's here to give you peace of mind with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary to build, protect, and transfer your wealth. 855-500-TRUST. GQlaw.com.
Gary, how do you and your team help our listeners avoid probate?
Well, first of all, probate is a process that involves attorneys, judges, and sometimes contesting parties. And so we try to avoid probate at pretty much all costs. The way we do that is setting up living trusts, setting up properly documented wills, putting the property like houses, cars, bank accounts in that trust so that it avoids probate. Probate is only necessary if the estate plan isn't set up quite right. So we help them get it set up right. And mainly that's done through a properly created living trust.
Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free initial consultation. That's GQlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST.
Feel like you're trying. Tell a friend about this broadcast outreach, The Word on Wealth, with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Call or click to request your free initial consultation or to talk with a member of the team. Call Gary at 855-500-TRUST. GQlaw.com.
You're live.
All right, welcome back to the Word on Wealth. Friday is the day that we talk about finding joy, and I am absolutely thrilled to be on the show. I'm glad that you guys are here along with us. On the break, I was going through my Britfield stuff, and I'm putting up a background now of Chad and one of his tours around the United States, helping people get creative. So we appreciate that. So Chad, here's the way we have the rest of our show today together. We have got some time, probably about 10 minutes, and I want to kind of keep going on the thread that we're started on creativity ideas for adults. Like, how do we get it back in ourselves? And I love what you're talking about. It's interesting. I'm I've created this story series called Zot and Teak, and it was when I had 2 children, and I would tell them stories, Zot and Teak, and Zot was a boy, Teak was a girl, and I happened to have a boy and a girl. And then I had a 3rd kid, and so then it was Zot, Teak, and Rex was the little brother, and I kept adding, and now I tell those to my grandkids, and it's very interesting what you're saying is give them the script. So I literally have this list of probably 15 or 18 stories, and they go, Grandpa, tell us another Zot and Teak story. And they're adventures where I was as a little kid and my imagination, because I had all these funky imagination things, digging tunnels and that kind of thing. So that one of my sets of grandchildren, they're all from my third kid. And I would sit down with them. I'd say, okay, now we're going to do this together. And I would start the Zot and Teak story, and I go, wait a minute, where did they go? And they all think, and they go, oh, they went here. And I go, what were they on? And they go, oh, they were doing this. And you develop this story. And it's funny because then it goes on. And then mom comes in and goes, hey guys, shut it down, man. It's bedtime. But we're just going on. And wait a minute. No. That's not what happened. He turned right and he went down this hallway. And so I can imagine, I look at you and your website and I go, oh my gosh, Chad is doing this thing, almost like living this dream with these kids in this auditorium and helping them come up with creativity. And I can't imagine the thrill that you feel and the adrenaline rush of helping these kids really figure out creativity. So anyway,
it's so important. And I want to return to that, like we said with the exercises, but I mean, I like the board game idea. And again, it's, you're not going to finish it in one session. So like whenever you have your kids, if you're playing with them for an hour, or if you're a grandparent and they're coming over once a week, pick it up where you left off and say, all right, let's get back to that board game and figure that out. Or like you said, Gary, exactly what you're doing. It's funny because I was going to mention this, and it's exactly what you've been doing is write a story and start a story. Let's write a story today. Where does it take place? Is it in the future? Is it in the past? And again, too, for me, it's very easy because I do it all the time. But you'll get better at it. You know what I mean? And have some kind of framework, and then you could continue with that story. 30 minutes a day, every other day. You can do different exercises. Maybe you're doing something like a product, or you're doing a board game, on Monday, Tuesday, you guys are continuing your story, you're writing a movie. It's just, it's all these types of things to implement into their lives to get them thinking and free. What you're really trying to do is you're trying to free up their mind so they can see all these different ideas and all these different possibilities. And I was thinking about Winnie the Pooh when you were saying that. And that all started from him making up stories, in the early 1920s, British writer, who was telling bedtime stories to his children, and that's now an $83 billion enterprise. Winnie the Pooh, it's the largest, most successful children's enterprise in the world. All from he wasn't a writer. He did writing kind of like technical nonfiction, but he wasn't a writer. He wasn't a novelist. But he decided to start putting these stories down and got it published, and the rest is history. But you never know what's going to come out of it also. Wow. And it's not like that's your end goal. So I can become a best-selling author. I can make money from it. Yeah. But there's so many of these different types of exercises. You could even just go online and just say creative exercises for kids. You know what I mean? And just do a little research and see what fits. Hey, that would be fun. Let's do that. But I'll stop there and let you continue. Actually, I want to share a quick story if we have. Let me know when we had a countdown. Because Yeah, we're good. You got like 5 minutes. Let's do this real quick because this is one of my favorite stories, and it personifies everything that we're talking about. And I got this from Sir Ken Robinson, a wonderful TED Talk, Our Schools Killing Creativity, 2006 TED Talk by Sir Ken Robinson. He taught, and it's the #1 most downloaded and watched TED Talk that's out there. And it blows my mind because it's someone that you've never necessarily heard of in your entire life, but he knocks it in the park because he talks about what's real to us. And because we are all born creative, we're all born those artists, and in some way it's like, we loved our building blocks and crowns, and then they got ripped from our hands, and it's like, I want my crowns back, right? But it's a great story from someone he interviewed, and her name is called Gillian Lind, and she was a choreographer, and she did Cats in Fathom in the opera, and her story kind of goes like this: is that she's this is kind of 1930s. She was having a lot of problems at school. Lots of energy. She was fidgety, couldn't concentrate, was getting in trouble, late with homework. And teachers said, to the mom said, we think that she has a learning disorder. And so she's like, you should take her to a specialist. And so the mom took her to a specialist, and she was talking with him for about 20, 30 minutes in his oak paneled room. And there was like a window there, and the mom was kind of looking in, and he told Gillian, he said, stay here. I'm going to go talk to your mom for a couple minutes. Before he left the room, he turned on the radio, and he closed the door, and the mom said, is she okay? What's wrong with her? He said, there's nothing wrong with your daughter. She's a dancer. Take her to a dance class. And they watched her. The music was playing, and she got up on her feet and was kind of dancing around. And so Sir Ken was interviewing her and said, so what happened? And she goes, and my mom did. She took me to a dance class, and she said it was fantastic. There were people there that needed to think to move. They needed to move to think. They needed to move to think. And they did everything there. They did jazz and tap and ballet. So the story goes on to say that she eventually auditioned for the Royal Ballet. She became a soloist. She had a wonderful career at the Royal Ballet. She eventually opened her own Gillian Lynn Dance Company. She met Andrew Lloyd Webber. She was responsible for Cats and Phantom of the Opera. Wow. She's been responsible for some of the most successful musical theater productions in history. She's given pleasure to millions, and she's a multi-millionaire. Someone else might have put her on medication, told her to sit down and calm down. Mm-hmm. And I just love that story. That's what we're dealing with. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so much, it all goes back to creativity, Chad. So much creativity, whether you're talking about music or dance or theater or a combination of any other extracurricular activity, those being taken out of the school, that's a bigger detriment to our kids than anybody can possibly fathom.
Sure. And there's nothing wrong with your kid. They weren't designed to sit in these institutions with 30 or 40 other 8-year-olds for 40 hours a week. They're kids. They've got energy. Their brain's moving, and they need to be out and about. They need to be playing in the park and running. It's like, I remember as a kid growing up, it's like we had a park right down our block, and absolutely loved going down there with friends. We'd meet there, after school. We'd build forts. There's another school, elementary school across the way. A lot of people just kind of randomly show up, and suddenly we do a tag, touch football game or football frisbee or frisbee football, or, you know what I mean? And that's how we grew up, you know what I mean? And that was responsible for who I am today. And I'll tell you another thing that was responsible for it was a wonderful teacher, my 6th grade teacher, and her class was amazing. And we did so many creative things. We have gardens out in the back. She gave us an assignment. This is where it all started for me. She gave us an assignment. It's like a third of our grade. And we all had to write a book. And it could be like a picture book with a paragraph here and there. It had to be like at least 20 or 25 pages. And that's where it all started for me. It's like, I was thinking first, as a kid, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like, I got to write a book. But I sat down and I just started to write about what I loved. And that was James Bond movies. Mm-hmm. And I wrote James Bond, Eat Your Heart Out. And I was a 10-year-old secret agent for the British government on this mission to track down this villain across Europe. And the rest is history. And 40 years later, Britfield and the Lost Crown was born. So it's because of that teacher giving us those amazing creative exercises and having a creative class. It was wonderful. I'll never forget that 6th grade class. So
I love that from James Bond to Gowerstone in
yeah.
Oh, that's so fun. I love it. Chad, this is fun. It's fun to get into your head, kind of into your brain a little bit, and kind of you're letting me kind of dig in, and I appreciate that. It's very personal, and I understand. This is really good. I like the way you think. It's a lot of fun, and I personally am going to take some suggestions. I'm not unattentive when I interview you. I'm just taking a lot of notes. So there's going to be people watching this on YouTube, and why is Gary looking down? Because Gary's taking notes because he wants to be a good grandpa. That's one of the things that we, as we get older, we want to be a good grandparent. And I got some suggestions, and I absolutely love them. This is really terrific. We really appreciate everything you're doing for young people and for adults with creativity. It just really seems like the way you're describing it, it's something, it's not that difficult to be creative. You just have to kind of take the time to do that. I mean, even, these psychologists,
you can't afford not to do it.
Yeah.
You can't afford not to do it. You might sit there and say, oh, I work 50 hours. And I get it. I really do. It's easy for me because it's my livelihood, if you will. It's my life. But you really have to. It's just, to me, create
1 minute
as exercises for the body. Because when you're doing a creative exercise, you're obviously using your right brain. You're firing up the synapses. It's doing things to your brain and your body. It's calming you down. It's helping with stress. It's relaxing you. It's bringing you peace and fun and excitement most of the time, right?
Right.
Sometimes when I'm writing, I'm like,
You're like, right.
Yeah, but that's my vehicle.
Yeah.
You know, what's your vehicle? What's your ride? What's your ride? Is it music? Is it painting? Is it creating? You know, you have an idea for a company. I think we talked about that before.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, start to map it out.
Just
you know?
do it.
Put together a little skeleton, business plan or something, or a marketing plan. Do you have an idea for a product? Look, and if you never reach that end goal, that's okay. Often they say, see as far as you can, and then once you get there, you'll be able to see farther. And
It's
you're like, well,
it's the
really
process.
know.
All of it is the process. And Chad, this has been absolutely fantastic to have you on. I really, really appreciate it. You guys listen to this thing again. Be creative, Chad. Thank you so much. Britfield. Go Britfield. Thanks, man. Take care. Bye, everybody. Talk to you on Monday.
Tell a friend about the Word on Wealth, featured since 1995. With financial solutions attorney Gary Quackenbush, an expert in estate planning, wills and trusts, and tax problem solving. Gary is past president of the California Society of Tax Consultants. Reach out to us. The Word on Wealth team of financial experts is here to answer your questions and help preserve your family's financial future. The information you hear on the Word on Wealth is for general information purposes only. This program discusses general financial and legal topics. Seek legal advice from a competent lawyer for your individual legal needs. The opinion